Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tech Tuesday webinar. I am your moderator, Kevin Marhini. I'm the digital marketing specialist here at Coretek Services. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Today, we're joined by Jim Hunter, the CISO over here at Coretek, and he's going to be going over backup as a service. But before we hand it over to Jim and let him run through the presentation he's prepared, just a couple of quick housekeeping items. As always, we are recording today's webinar and presentation, so whether you want to refer back to it at a later date, or if you were unable to join during the live presentation, we will be sending that out so that you can view it at your convenience. We'll also be sending along a copy of the slide deck for you to refer back to as well. We also will be hosting actually we have quite a few upcoming webinars. We of course have our regularly scheduled Tech Tuesday webinar next week, which is focused on Nasuni cloud storage. But we also have later on this week a Azure migration strategies webinar, which is we had one recently, but based off of the interest we got in that, we decided that we would host a second segment of that. So you will be seeing some, along with the recording when we send that out after today, you will see just some invites to go ahead and sign up for those webinars as well if you are interested. With that out of the way and all the boring stuff, Jim, I will go ahead and hand it over to you now to walk us through the presentation you've prepared today, looking here at backup as a service.
All right, great. Thanks, Kevin, and good afternoon, everyone. And as Kevin mentioned, we'll spend this Tech Tuesday time going through backup as a service and really, go through and explain, in terms of some topics to discuss within this, really define or level set, what is backup as a service. There's obviously a lot out there in the marketplace in terms of definitions and whatnot, and really, just briefly dive into why you might want to consider a service like this, and then how Coretek has implemented this particular service in terms of a design and management as well. And then we'll leave some time at the end for questions and wrap up. So really, diving in, obviously, preaching to a choir here in terms of the audience, but backups, a very foundational and critical, control and function within any IT program. It doesn't matter the company or the industry, and what we've seen a lot recently, especially from a security perspective, in the past we've used backups sort of traditionally just to, restore files for users that may have been deleted or accidentally, overwritten, or unintentionally modified, sort of the standard requests we get from the user audience, and then within the infrastructure as well, being able to back up and restore workloads, whether it's in a DR scenario, maybe even practicing DR, a failed update in terms of, we've all been in those scenarios where, we apply a patch or something to a workload and, it either is not compatible with other pieces of software on there, or does something to the workload where it's just easier to go back to the latest backup and restore it. Sometimes there's other workload issues. Databases do get dirtied, for instance, and we can take restorations of those files and or full databases and put them back. But it's the last one that really we've seen a huge increase in from a security view in the recent months, even so far as the government themselves issuing some warnings to healthcare industry in particular, and a few other industries as well, in that ransomware attacks on a significant increase. I think the cyber criminals have figured out how to monetize ransomware attacks, and it just puts more pressure on your backup solution, because really the only way to mitigate a ransomware attack is to restore, and having that ability to restore in mass and quickly, and more importantly, across the entire environment. They may ransom one laptop, one desktop, it may be 100. They may go after, I've seen some attacks where they've gone after the Active Directory controllers, and done that obviously intentionally to try to drive the business to pay the ransom as opposed to trying to restore, and the more damage that they can do and whatnot. And again, it all goes back to the backups, and sadly we found some clients just either haven't tested their backups in terms of that way to see if they could restore those certain workloads, or things get missed, whether it's new systems that get put up and running and whatnot. They just don't get brought into the backup system, or it's one of the items that gets overlooked from that transition from, say, a test and pre-production into production. I think we've all had those experiences as well. So, all this together really, calls out the needs for, backups that could do much more than they've traditionally done. Now, backup as a service, as you can see here in the marketplace, it's really cloud delivering through a third party, sort of a backup service and offering. So, what you traditionally have had, or have on-prem, is now being taken out and replaced in some instances with a cloud-based solution that either a partner, a third-party provider, someone is taking care of in terms of the infrastructure it's running on, the software that's running, and then being able to connect back to your on-premise or cloud workloads and doing that. So it really takes the place over substitutes for what you would have traditionally done on-prem in terms of software. Now, Coretek has taken it sort of one step further in that, we'll offer that sort of that vehicle to do backups, the system to do backups from our cloud in a multi-tenant structure. But in addition to that, we're going to take care of fully managing it as well for our clients. So, what we found is, and we'll get into it in a couple of other slides, a lot of the clients are looking to, outsource this for various reasons. And we've sort of taken that, backup as a solution that you see in the marketplace and added our managed services to it to really give you that turnkey solution. And so really to touch on just some high level reasons you might want to consider a service like this. For us, when we talk to a lot of clients, especially with clients that are starting to move cloud first in terms of a strategy, or cloud best in terms of a strategy, it creates a lot of issues for the backup system as well. And a lot of those are, mass fragmentation and data silos, which, I've got some slides on to show a little bit more graphically, but, what used to be sort of in a traditional, on-premise four walls owned data center is now spread across, that particular data center. Maybe you've gone and co-located some of your infrastructure to another data center, public cloud, if you've started to move out to the cloud as well, and then SaaS offerings as well. So you've got your company's data inside of a SaaS offering, and it's how do you get a solution or a single solution to really unify and pull together in one place all those different backup sources. So that's really one of the first challenges that we see clients going through. And then having the ability to design that backup quickly for those as well, and then be able to grow as the business does and change very quickly as well. With that cloud strategy, change can happen very rapidly, and we got to make sure that the backups can as well. And then operationally, we're all dealing with sort of a limited resource skill set in terms of, just finding people with specific skill sets can be very much a challenge in today's environment. So, and finding skill sets that have that cloud and cloud-based backup experience as well is proving to be challenging as well. So that might be another reason that you'd want to, really look at a solution like this to try to ease that challenge. And then the upfront budget for the backup solution overall and the services. So, having to make those capital investments in the backup solution, in terms of hardware, storage, maybe offsite storage as well. And then, having that upfront capital expense, some companies are really looking for ways to sort of turn that CapEx into OpEx, and this is another way that can help with that. And then, what we find in some cases, maybe you do go out to a third party to help you set up a new backup solution, maybe something that can cover some of these cloud and SaaS instances as well. But there's really no future support after install in some cases. It's really a project-based initiative. Once it's done, you get your run book, that support tends to tail off very quickly. So that can present some challenges as well to the company. And this slide really, kind of highlights the fact that, with public cloud, really showing the data centers, remote offices, and other locations where, depending on the types of infrastructure you have, depending on types of network connections you have in between some of these facilities, whether it's a remote office or a co-located data center, you may be forced to put additional backup solutions in place locally in those places to do the backup. So, you can run into sort of mass data fragmentation as well. And I think, the next slide here can show you that as well, where, a lot of you recognize a lot of these technologies and whatnot that, you may have some of it today on-prem, you have some of it today in the cloud, but you quickly figure out that your data just won't exist in one place unless you've really architected a solution from the start to do that. So, just another, point that we like to show, in that you get a lot of siloed solutions and fragmentation across the environment. It's very difficult, say you need to do a restore on a particular system to find all that data. And so, with a managed backup solution, you're really getting, first and foremost, sort of that end-to-end coverage. Not only are we delivering the actual backup environment to you securely, through our shared services model, but it'll allow you to get all of those backup sources, whether it's on-prem, a co-located data center, cloud, SaaS, centralized into one backup facility, and then allow us to run it for you, in essence, to take the load off of your staff today. We work with them and we'll work with you, obviously, to get the backups set up for the workloads that we need to target and get them scheduled. But the day-to-day management of it, sort of the validation, the rerunning of backups, the test restores, things like that, all get shifted over to us, and then that frees up, obviously, your staff. And then, financially, you can take that capex expense that we talked about and really turning it into an opex expense, because it would be a fixed monthly expense now that we would perform. And a lot of the services, as you can see here, on a monthly basis, obviously we'd be centralizing all these backups, from your environment. And then any backup changes, whether it's schedule changes, whether you add new workloads, you deprecate workloads as well, monitoring these backups 24/7 as well, and rerunning them, as needed. All of that gets shifted over to us and frees up your staff as well to go on and do new projects or other things. And then, performing the maintenance on the backup system as well. That tends to be something that gets overlooked quite often. These systems need maintenance just like all the others. So applying the service packs, if there's any security patches that come out, and then what we would deliver and what we deliver to our clients is really that monthly backup report. So, showing you the overall backup system performance, just in terms of how many systems we targeted, how many we backed up, what's the total on the data we backed up, giving you sort of a workload by workload sheet as well. There might be systems in there that you don't realize are taking up as much backup space as they are. So, we like to call that stuff out, in addition to, failed backups. And it's one thing to have a system that, needs a restore, or in some cases a rerun of a backup job. But when you start to see that systemically, time after time, that's a good case to really take a deeper dive into, what is it? Is it the time it's trying to kick off? Is that system not tolerant of that? Is there other factors involved in the environment as well? So, we like to point those things out just to try to, bring some improvements as well. And then to really touch on, how we're going to deliver this service, like I said up front, we've taken that sort of backup as a service in terms of being a cloud offering, and we offer it from our cloud, and it's a pay-as-you-consume model. So by that, very much like you experience when you go to the cloud, you don't have to pay for a whole bunch of sort of what we call over provisioning costs. You don't have to stamp out that, hey, I need 10 terabytes of space. It's, well, if you're only using 6, then let's pay for 6. And this will grow and expand dynamically as your environment does. So it gives you that ability to just really pay as you consume monthly, and really only pay for what you're using. So, we see a lot of clients having to, go buy that 20, 30, 50 terabyte SAN to put in place, even though they're only using 6 or 10 terabytes today, because they have to account for, say, 5 years worth of growth before that particular hardware device is written off. So you do have a a lot of unused space for a few years that you're really paying for and not utilizing. So this helps, obviously with those costs. And then, for us, we partner with Cohesity. We feel like after looking at all the backup vendors out there, for us, they bring a very, very strong offering. It's really a backup system that is built on a file system similar to the Google file system and Nutanix file system if you're familiar with hyperconverged. And because of that, it allows you to offer a lot of different functionality just in addition to backups. You can restore dev and test environments, in this particular backup model from your backups and leave the original backups alone and create, in essence, clones right from the backup utility. So it's got a lot of interesting uses for your data. You can do a lot of legal hold searches and things within your backup data because it is a file system. We do put an on-premise local node at your location. So a lot of clients ask, what happens if I do a restore locally? Am I going to have to stress my internet connections maybe at a time when I've got high customer demand coming in? And the answer to that is no. We set up a local node that is really responsible for those, restores locally, and then if it needs to draw things from the cloud, it can, but generally it keeps 1 to 5 days worth of backups locally for you to be able to restore them very quickly. And then it does take care of transmitting those securely out to the cloud for final storage as well. And then, in addition to just file backups, we can do those app consistent snapshots and backups that clients want to see as far as being able to take a workload and snap it or back it up because there might be some maintenance going on, or you just need a weekly copy of it. Uh, the backups are immutable. So even if you're an admin in the system, once the backups are taken, they cannot be changed. So the nice thing there is if, say, ransomware does get in the environment, a lot of cases we've seen ransomware take and ransom the backups themselves and render them unusable. With this solution, the backups cannot be changed. They're in essence locked in read-only. There is not a way for them to be changed even at the admin level. So it does offer some reassurance there that at least your backups cannot be both locally and in the cloud cannot be overwritten by ransomware. And then you get backup resources that are familiar both with the on-prem and cloud-based backups, and that's one of our strengths. Coretek does a lot of work in the cloud. We're very familiar with the space, and we know how to design a solution and implement the solution that can get you the best backups for all those scenarios. And then security is something that we really design in at all levels. It's architected from the start, both in that local node that gets put on-prem and then the shared one that's out in the cloud. Security for us is something that's literally in every step of this. We do show you where best practices review is done, and again, really trying to highlight, in addition to the best practice on those monthly basis, where there might be trouble spots, where there might be ways to simplify or, in essence, make it cheaper because it is pay to consume on some of these maybe higher provisioned resources where you're taking a lot of backup space for one particular device and calling that out to you just to make sure that there are things we can do to help limit that. And then the solution also offers you, because it is pay as you go and pay as you consume, you have the ability to really flex this up very quickly, both in the design and the service offering. So, if you were to add another, say, 1-2 terabyte database, it's not something you have to go back and hey, clear that. Do we have the physical disk space? Can we allocate the LUN to it? What can we do for the backups to make sure we can accommodate it? This system will actually grow as your data grows. Again, just calling out some of this in terms of the scale out. The Cohesity solution offers a lot of efficiency. So the nice thing there, and especially in the pay to consume model, it's not a 1-for-1. So if you had 10 terabytes of data that you needed to generally back up, we're seeing on average sort of 6-to-1 in terms of compression and deduplication. So you can scale that down pretty quickly and only pay for really what you need to. It'll dedupe across the environment, across all the backups that it sees, and then obviously compress them as well. And then being able to do that global search. So again, in cases of a legal hold or just a general user or inquiry into the backups, hey, where's the data on this particular project, or where's the data on this, it can actually search across all the workloads and be able to point out, maybe you've got some documents on that particular project in SharePoint, maybe you've got some in Teams, you've got some stored locally in a file share, maybe in a database, and it will unify all that to give you that holistic view of your data. And then mass restores instantaneously, because we've got the local and the cloud copies. We can get those restores going very quickly. And then the run apps I touched on briefly, it gives you the ability again to stand up, say, a test and dev environment off of your backups right in the actual cluster itself. We don't need to provision additional space on premise. We can actually use the cluster because there's a file system at heart, and be able to stand up copies of that, and leaving the original backups alone. It'll create clones of those and stand them up very quickly within the environment. So we find a lot of clients like that feature as well. And then the cybersecurity side of it, again, because they're immutable backups, we really get to avoid a lot of the concerns around ransomware affecting the backup files. And just a quick look at the deployment model. Again, the Coretek cloud is really hosting the actual instance itself, and then we deploy what we call robots on-prem to handle a lot of that data brokering. A lot of the deduplication and compression is handled down on the client side as well through that on-prem robot. And then, to the far right, this is something else that we like to bring out, is a lot of clients are going out to the public cloud for DR. Whether it's Azure, you have your own Azure tenant set up, we can actually take an additional copy of that data and place it out there in your DR environment to help solve for the fact that in a DR situation, you want your backup data right there in that environment. So we can take an additional copy and place it out there as well for you. And again, the 2 points down here is you're not required to license that entire usable capacity. It's really just as you consume. And the nice thing is you're being measured post deduplication and compression. So you're getting those additional lifts and not having to pay for the raw data. This is just a snapshot to show you what you might see as a client coming in as far as your management dashboard. Obviously it's full transparency from our side. We love the clients to be able to get in and at any point monitor what's going on with their backups. It is a partnership. It's something that we encourage the clients to get into. It sort of falls along that trust and verify model, and again, something that we really like for you to get in and see. And then, on a monthly basis, we'll bring you a report very similar to this, where we might show across the different workloads and storage environments, where you might be using up the most amount of data, and really trying to highlight to you places that we see improvement that can be made, whether it's the frequency at which you're making backups or how you're making the backups. If there's ways that we can somehow work with you to get those values down and yet still provide the right amount of protection, then that's the goal in all this. But that's something that we review with you, on a monthly basis as well. And yeah, that's it. It's like I say, a very straightforward service, a very critical service, but something nonetheless that we're very proud of and being able to offer in terms of a fully managed service, giving the clients the ability to free up some cycles for their own team and team members to work on additional projects and things, but still knowing that your backups are being taken care of. And with that, Kevin, I'll turn it back to you and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. We do have a question here, and the first question is, how is the backup service offered by Azure different from what we're offering as Coretek?
Yeah, so native Azure backups, so like any public cloud, it really just addresses one specific workload. So in this case, Azure. Getting Azure to back up, say, SaaS applications to go out and back up on-prem workloads, co-located workloads. Now you're sort of driving the cloud down, and it can be very cumbersome in terms of trying to do that. So we really look at public cloud backups as really more focused on that particular public cloud, and then having the deduplication and compression. We don't see those types of deduplication and compression values in public cloud as much as we do in a solution like ours with Cohesity. So obviously public cloud's incentivized to bring consumption in, and they do some of that, but not on the magnitude that we've seen with a solution Cohesity.
Great. That looks like the only question we have at the moment. If anyone has any others, feel free to please submit them using the chat. We do have a few minutes here, so while we wait to see if anything else comes in through the chat feature here, just want to remind everybody that we will be sending out today's presentation and the recording once it's available. It should be going out either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, depending on when when GoToWebinar makes things available to us. We also, mentioned, Jim mentioned here in today's presentation, Cohesity, one of our security partners. Another security partner, Arctic Wolf, we are actually having a webinar on the 15th that they'll be leading that specifically looks at sort of debunking some of the myths around ransomware. As Jim mentioned here throughout the presentation, one of the only ways that you can really recover from a ransomware attack is having good backups in place. So they'll be taking a look at ransomware as a whole and really digging into the subject, because it's quite the hot topic between the FBI recently releasing that alert to healthcare and hospital systems to just an increased intensity out there. Cybersecurity is certainly something to be on the forefront of. So we're happy to bring Arctic Wolf in, and that is actually in 2 weeks. So that is the 15th. It will be at 2 p.m. just like our normal Tech Tuesday webinars, but we'll be bringing in Arctic Wolf there to help share some of their expertise around ransomware. So if you did enjoy today's webinar, could be a good one for you to sign up for as well. I'm not seeing any other questions come through here at the moment. Oh, nope, there is one. So I heard you mention Nutanix. Do you support that platform? We use Nutanix and VMware.
Yeah, absolutely we do, and we sold Nutanix for quite a few years, and we've got a lot of expertise in that area as well as VMware. So yeah, please do reach out if you've got additional projects or concerns around that as well.
Yep, and included in the presentation when we send that out, there will be an invite for you to sign up for that Arctic Wolf webinar that I mentioned, but there will also be a link for you to click to schedule a meeting if you want to talk with the Coretek, any of our Coretek reps about backup as a service specifically, or if you're just wanting to do a more general preparedness assessment. Those will be two options that you'll have when we do send out the recording today. So definitely able to follow up with you on that in more detail if you'd like. All right. Make sure that there is no other questions to come through. And Daryl, I'll make sure I'll look to make sure that we get connected with you so that we can schedule something there. But if there's no other questions, want to thank everybody for your time today, and thank you, Jim, for walking us through the presentation. We will be back again next Tuesday for a webinar taking a look at Nasuni, sorry, that's a hard thing to pronounce, Nasuni Cloud Storage, with our Director of Hybrid Services, Ryan Hinkleman, will be joining me for that one. So if you're interested in that, invites, of course, will be going out as well for that as well. We like to have many webinars running. It's a weekly cadence, so never a shortage of topics. And we do like to spread them out across all of our lines of business, from security here with Jim to what we're doing with modern workplace with Microsoft, and of course Azure, and then what we're doing on the hybrid side with Citrix as well. We like to try and get a good mix in there so everyone can have at least one topic, hopefully a month, that is of interest to them. So thank you again for tuning in today. We'll hope to see you in future webinars, and everyone have a fantastic afternoon and a great rest of your week. Thank you and goodbye.